most of the time, for me anyway, these types of movies feel like a chore to get through.
Yeah.
You know that I do not like biopics. I do not like period pieces. But Richard Linklater is a great director. I like all his movies. I love Ethan Hawke. And this one actually managed to pull me in. And it's not the reasons that I expected when I went into it.
What the hell are we supposed to use, man? Harsh language?
Hey now.
Ahoy.
Marvin can't be with us today, but we're here with you, and we're talking about shout out to Marvin. We're talking about Blue Moon today. An Oscar, a lot of chatter around this movie. Oscar chatter, though. It's not like a mainstream,
Got a couple nominations, yeah.
Got a few nominations, particularly Best Actor for Ethan Hawke, which is really why I wanted to watch it. I was, I scheduled for this month a lot of the Oscar noms to kind of finish off the ones that we haven't seen, and this was one of them. Now, I think it was kind of unanimous between you, me, and Marvin that we like our boy from Train Dreams for best actor this year.
Joel.
Yeah, Joel Edgerton. So when I heard that, when I was looking through the other best actor noms, I wasn't familiar with this one, and I like Ethan Hawke and I like Richard Linklater, so I was like, all right, let's check it out. So we're talking about Blue Moon today, folks. Stick around for that one.
A period piece. Dan usually hates those.
A period piece. Dan does usually hate those. Did I hate this one? We'll find out. Stick around. What did you get up to this week? Anything good? Anything interesting?
No, nothing too exciting this week. All the exciting stuff's over. I was jet setting around there for a little while.
Yeah.
But kids had they got basketball going on right now, so we're doing that on the weekends and played some Magic with the big kids last night. That was fun. Haven't really watched too many movies this week, but I did start Wonder Man. I really want to start Shrinking. Also watching the Game of Thrones, The Night of the Seven Kingdoms. Got an episode of that to catch up on. But Wonder Man's pretty good so far. I've got 10 minutes left, I think, in episode 3. So I didn't get to binge it. But yeah.
I finished Wonder Man last night. I watched the whole thing in one sitting.
Nice.
Wonder Man is the best thing Marvel has done in years.
I love Ben Kingsley so far in this. In the first 3 episodes, I was not a fan of Marvel using a fake Mandarin in the Iron Man when that movie came out. Like, I was disappointed in that.
You know who was pissed about that? Pissed. Ed. Shout out to Ed.
Shout out. Yeah, I was too, dude. I was too. Yeah, it's. But yeah, I mean, Ben Kingsley so far is tremendous in this, and it's great.
Yeah, I watched it all last night. It was excellent. It's a complete departure from your standard Marvel product, and I mean, therefore, I can't imagine everybody will like it. I watched it with Ed, and he thought it was a little bit boring, but he's the type of person who just wants like bang, 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 act like. He doesn't have a lot of patience for like character stuff, I don't think.
Sure.
And that's what this is. This is a character story. It's about it's just about 2 people, and that's that. But this is exactly what I'm looking for from Marvel, honestly, especially at this point in the Marvel timeline. It was simple and understated, and it was, like I said, a character story, but it's about like these 2 guys. One of which is like an aged out sort of actor who's like had his time and has made some mistakes in life. And the other is a struggling actor whose time hasn't even come yet. And he wants to be an actor. Like, that's his passion. And it's about them developing this friendship and this like mentor relationship as they're trying to.
Because mom didn't even think he'd ever have a friend. And now he's got this guy that's being his friend. And It's an interesting friendship
Right.
so far.
It's 8 30-minute episodes, so it's incredibly digestible and easy to watch.
Yeah.
Like I said, I watched it in one night. It there's almost no action in this. Not to spoil the rest of the series for you, but there's almost no
I figured
action.
this is an introduction to, like, this is like Iron Man 1 where, I mean, you get, I don't know, there's some action in that, but it's more like this is the guy you're really not going to see a whole lot till the next movie.
I'm going to tell you what.
So now they've got a character they can use in the MCU.
I won't say anything specific, but it might not even be that.
Oh,
and
really?
that's great. And I'll
Okay.
tell you why. So, I mean, like I said, there's no action almost. There's no real like CGI, crazy CGI effects. Like that's the one thing, you know, we complain about a lot. You have a show that like starts out good, like let's say like Moon Knight, and then all of a sudden it just goes off the rails and you have two giant CGI kaijus fighting each other in Egypt. Like that is never mentioned ever again. Like it's crazy. But this is not that. And it was so good because of it. The acting is fantastic, as you're seeing already. The two leads have amazing chemistry. They're so funny together, especially Ben Kingsley. He's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's heartfelt, and it just like nailed everything. But yeah, this is what I want from Marvel going forward. Like, just give me simple stories about characters that may or may not have anything to do with the grander MCU. Because that's what this is. This is just a character.
Well, that's your complaint about Star Wars too.
In
large part.
And Andor solved that for me. This is a story, as far as I could tell, just about a guy in the Marvel universe, but not necessarily connected to the MCU. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just a story about a guy who just lives in this universe. Like what I think Clayface is going to be for the DCU. It's just a story about this guy. Might not ever show up again in Batman. He might. Who knows? And that's what this kind of felt like to me. And I really, really liked it. It was real refreshing. It was a real breath of fresh air for Marvel. And ironically, I don't know if they thought it was going to be a failure or if they thought nobody was going to be interested in it or if they just decided to like spend all their time marketing Doomsday. This show has gotten no marketing. They threw it all out on in one shot rather than week to week. I've seen almost no chatter about it, like from them.
Like the Civil War movie, my biggest complaint about the Marvel Civil War is they kind of just like, they're like, all right, that's the Civil War, it's over. Yeah, they fought.
Right.
Cool.
Yeah.
Like you could have made 6 or 7 miniseries that were 4 to 8 episodes long of each character dealing with like which side am I gonna choose? Like this is a tough,
Yeah.
I would have watched all that shit and loved it.
But yeah, this is the type of shit I want to see, Marvel. This is it. Give us this. Cause like you tried to do the whole like it's just too much, like you can't have everything you make be a lead into the next thing and the next thing and the next thing and have it be essential viewing for this thing and that thing. It's just too much. Your audience is telling you that they're tired of it. Your audience is telling you that your product has become worse for it. And so try something new. And this is it.
I mean, there's stuff that works though, and there's stuff that doesn't work. Like with the Netflix thing they almost got to Heroes for Hire or the Defenders or whatever you want to call them, the Street Justice
They
guys.
did, but that show sucked.
Yeah, but the build up to it was great. It was its own little basically microverse within the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Which
even that is a little bit too much from what I want to move away from. Like, yes, you're right. 100%, totally agree. But wait, by the time you finish the show, you'll get what I'm talking about. I don't want any connection to the MCU.
Interesting.
Like
okay.
I won't. Like I'm not gonna.
I'm okay with shows like that though too.
Yeah,
I love those.
It's just like I won't.
Like Swamp Thing was largely disconnected from the DCU when that came out, and it was great.
What I'm about to say is not really a spoiler. I'm sure you understand that that's where it's going. He has powers, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. The show doesn't confirm this, so don't take this as a spoiler. It's not. This is just my slight speculation. They don't explain his powers at all. They just tell you he has them from a child. Leads me to believe that he's a mutant.
Well, yeah, he seems to at least radiate a sonic wave of some sort.
Right. But I'm saying they don't explain it, that he didn't get like dipped in chemicals or there was no accident, there was no experiment. He just has them, and it seemingly was born with them since he's had them since a child.
Okay, so, all right. Maybe, possibly, but mutants generally don't get their powers. They're born with the mutant gene, but it's not until puberty that they start showing their powers or some traumatic experience.
Right. So, but what I'm trying to say is that that even doesn't matter. I'm just saying that, like, I just think he's a mutant because you just know that something happened in his childhood because of his powers, and his family covered it up. That's what the show is. It's him covering up the fact that he has these powers because he wants
they're
to
hiding history. You can tell that like the mom opens up a little bit to Ben Kingsley in episode 3, but you can tell they're hiding stuff.
So what I think this is doing is slowly introducing the concept that like mutants exist.
I see where you're going. Yeah.
Mutants don't necessarily out themselves that often.
Gotta stay in the closet. Yep. Gotta hide yourself. Can't be. Yep. You're abnormal. People react weird, awkwardly. It's dangerous.
And so this show, these 8 episodes rather, is just a story of a man who's
a capstone to a broader storyline of people aren't going to accept this.
But he may or may not appear again, is my point.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's cool. That it's just a story about a man in this universe, and that's that.
I'd be okay with that too. I'm totally fine with him not overusing characters. I hate the fact that they've used some great characters and haven't reused them, and they overuse some other characters. So
like there's no reason that this show would have like should have ended and been like, you will see Wonder Man will return, and like, there's no reason for that. So that's all I'm saying. Whether he comes back or not, I don't know. But it's just a good story. It's just a good character story about.
I'm looking forward to finishing it.
This friendship, and I didn't spoil anything, so
nice.
And there's really nothing to spoil, to be honest. So I mean, that's it.
Right.
But yeah. So great show. Wonder Man really surprised me. I was hearing great things about it, and it didn't disappoint. I was very, 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 very pleasantly surprised by it. Very good. And this guy, this actor, I'm gonna butcher his name. Yahya Abdul Mateen II. He's been in some shit that I hate, and I thought he was really bad in those things. But we have said here before on the show that a lot of times somebody's bad acting, it's more about the direction and the writing than the actual acting itself.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So his performance in Aquaman, I think, as Manta, I can forgive after watching this. And he was good as in Watchmen as well. He was Dr. Manhattan in the Watchmen show. And he
had some okay scenes as Manta and Aquaman. It was like that movie. Those movies aren't great, but there are some decent scenes.
And really, this show is also about acting. Like if you are an actor or you have an affinity for act, like if you have a love of acting, or if you're a student of film or whatever, this is a great show for you because it's really about the craft of acting and like the passion that goes into it as a career and all that stuff. So really, really good. Loved it. Give me more shit like this. Why don't we get into some news? Decent sized week in terms of entertainment news. Let's kick it off with a little box office stuff. Melania, surprisingly, doing well for a documentary release. Seems like a lot of the sycophants are going out and mass buying tickets, like bulk buying tickets. But
not showing up.
I don't know if they're showing up or not. That's speculation to me. I've seen there's just no way nobody's going to see this movie. But
I mean, Trump's got who knows how much money from his Trump coin. He could have bought all the tickets himself for all we know. It's
maybe
crypto. What the f- do we know?
But it has a 99% positive audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, and funny enough, the majority of those are brand new accounts. People love the movie so much that they just signed up for Rotten Tomatoes specifically to rate it. So What do you know?
Fascinating.
Yeah, but it did open to a pretty surprising number. It had it opened with $7 million. It's the best non-domestic. I'm sorry, it's the best non-music documentary debut in a decade, in terms of opening weekend gross. However, the movie.
Are you gonna watch this documentary, Dan?
Absolutely not. I have zero interest in her as a person or as a model or as a first lady. I don't care. No matter what angle you want to throw at me, do not care about this woman. So no, I won't watch it. But unfortunately for them, Amazon reportedly paid an estimated $40 million to acquire the rights to the movie, and they spent an additional $35 million on marketing. So at an $8 million opening weekend, they are not off to a great start in terms of.
It was Bezos that did it, huh? Not Ellison. That's interesting.
Well,
I mean, I'm sure they were all fawning over who wanted it.
The tech gurus are like greasing the wheels of industry, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Also in the box office this weekend, our boy with his new movie out. Sam Raimi's Send Help opened with $28 million, fueling Disney to its 10th number one weekend in a row at the global box office.
Rachel McAdams,
yeah.
right?
Yep. Did you see the trailer for this?
No, I have not. I've been kind of trying to, I've been seeing some Rachel McAdams headlines about her talking about doing the stunt scenes and some of the stuff that Sam Raimi and how she loved filming this, but I'm trying to just go in and see it.
Are you going to go to the theater to see it?
Probably, yes.
Oh, really?
Matinee. Yeah, weekend matinee.
Yeah, I want to try to see it too. It looks good, and I haven't seen a good Sam Raimi movie in a while. I mean, if you want to count Multiverse of Madness, which I don't, but.
And he's working with a guy that the dude that did the music, I want to say, is a guy that he used to work with before, and they had a falling out, and they were like, I'll never work with this guy again. I forget who said it, but they're working together again. So.
Nice. With a $28.1 million worldwide debut. It was $20 million domestic, $8.1 million overseas from 47 markets. A respectable start for Send Help, a movie which before P&A cost $40 million. Also, the result is a win for an R-rated original movie. What kind of news you got for us this week? We'll save this one for the end.
Molly Ringwald has made some comments about remakes, especially when it comes to John Hughes remakes. But she was talking with people recently, and she said, well, they can't be remade because they can't be made without permission of John Hughes, who died in 2009, and he didn't want the films to be remade. And I don't think they should be, really. Presumably, Hughes' two sons, John III and James, they'd be in charge of estate decisions like that. So I'm sure people have come calling, and they've said no to this point. But you never know what could happen. But last year, she also made similar comments during the 40th anniversary of the Breakfast Club. She made some similar but different comments. I personally don't believe in remaking that movie, talking about the Breakfast Club, because I think this movie is very much of its time. You know, it's very white, this movie. You don't see a lot of different ethnicities. We don't talk about gender, none of that. And I feel like that really doesn't represent our world today. And I kind of get what she's saying there, and some people probably took that out of context. But the gist of what she says in the People story is like, I don't want you to remake this movie. I don't mind if you draw from the themes and make a similar movie, but don't call it the Breakfast Club and then shoe in different characters that aren't the original characters. That's going to make people mad. Just make a similar coming of age teen movie that draws from similar themes. Like let's be writers. Let's be creative. Let's make a new story. This story's been told 1,000 times. It's going to be told 1,000 more. Don't remake it 1,001 times.
Yeah.
Make a new one
about it. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like John Hughes movies are so influential and so ingrained into the cultural zeitgeist that just by virtue of making a coming of age teen movie, you're remaking one of his movies, right?
Sure.
There's no way you're not. And so you don't have like you could be inspired by his films, and you don't have to sit there and make a movie called The Breakfast Club where a new cast of people are in detention for a day, like, because that's stupid. Yeah. And like she said, that's creative. Really, that is creatively bankrupt, which you know Hollywood is, but whatever. But she's right in that sense.
Well, in these days, I would be like in school suspension, where like you go down to the boiler room and you're hanging out, you know, and that. So like you could, I don't know, but yeah, I don't. It's it's weird for me because there are obviously things that are remade and remade well. Like, where would we be without Christopher Nolan's Batman? And how many times has that been remade? But like, I don't know. There's some True Grit. Not the really original with John Wayne is a masterpiece, but the one after with Jeff Bridges, it's not as good, but it's a great work of art. It didn't need to be done, but it was done, and it was done properly, and it's still enjoyable. So,
well, I mean, listen, you're talking about some big shooters, okay?
Yes,
the Coen brothers. The Coen brothers are not gonna sit there and make like a bad remake, right? If anybody's got to make a remake, it's the Coen brothers. But I will push back on you a little bit about Batman. Batman is not really a remake. That is a franchise, an IP that has a source material. So any new movie is not necessarily remaking the last movie. It's just a new interpretation of the source material. You know what I mean?
But I think Hollywood gets lost in that too, in that they think that they need to remake something that didn't need to be remade.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all the time. Like we see remakes constantly, and I complain about it all the fucking time. Remakes are ridiculous. They're stupid.
Yeah,
and the point that she makes is like, you know, race and gender equality and stuff wasn't like.
I mean, I remember there being a little bit of diversity in most of those movies. Maybe not as much as.
Nah, it's not. Now. We're so diverse now that Christopher Nolan cast Lupita Nyong'o as Helena Troy in The Odyssey.
Yeah, Elon's pissed.
I know, a lot of people are pissed. So yeah, but yep, I saw. Right. So that's good. No, let's just not remake John Hughes movies. Imagine they remake Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Like, just how not good that would be. Like, give me a break. Yeah. Can't do it. You can't do it. This made me cry. The Thing just made history.
Oh,
did you hear about this?
I did not.
So The Thing is now officially recognized as one of the most important films in American history. For those of you that don't know, The Thing has just been added to the National Film Registry. It's a big deal. Every year, the National Film Registry selects films that are culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Only 25 movies get picked annually, and once selected, the film is preserved forever as part of America's cultural heritage. It's treated with the same seriousness as like a classic literature or historical documents, and this is basically a signal that the movie has had a lasting impact on art, culture, and the industry as a whole. So why does this matter, Dusty? Well, it completely rewrites the legacy of The Thing. Unfortunately, we actually did make Marvin watch The Thing at one point.
This was a lost episode.
The Thing was a lost episode, tragically.
I was gonna say, like, this had to be an early one, that we made. This had to be an early one, and I wanted to look to see which episode one. And then I was looking, and I was like, wait, it's not coming up. This, and you're talking there, and I was like, oh yeah, this is a lost.
We might have to redo this one. But
we might.
But yeah. So why does this matter? So it rewrites the movie's legacy. The Thing was released in 1982, and critics trashed it. Audiences ignored it, and for a film that was once considered a failure to be formally preserved now as part of America's cultural heritage is like a full-on historical reversal, and that kind of reputation flip is rare. Now, the other reason why horror almost never gets this level of institutional recognition. The National Film Registry has historically been slow to acknowledge horror and sci-fi. And when a genre film actually does break through, it kind of signals a shift in how the culture values the type of storytelling. We talk all the time.
Evil Dead could be in there. It could get
easily. There are some. I'll list them in a minute, but yeah. So this cements this was never really in question, but it cements now the practical effects into history. Rob Bottin was the the creature designer on this movie, and this movie's a landmark in physical creature design. So preserving the film means preserving a turning point in special effects history. And for me, I might get choked up talking about it now, but it validates John Carpenter's influence. And, he's always been beloved by his fans, but under-recognized by institutions and the industry as a whole. And
that's because he turned his nose to those pretentious and said, I don't like being around this shit. I just like making good stuff.
Keep in mind, folks, for those of you that don't know, John Carpenter, his relationship with Hollywood is tumultuous,
basically,
to say the least.
Fuck 'em. Yeah.
It's been a long, weird love-hate story, mostly hate, though, from the industry and love from the fans. So Carpenter comes out swinging with Halloween. That's like his first real major achievement. He had done a couple movies before that, Assault on Precinct 13 and whatever. But Halloween was
Ghost of Mars before or after?
No, Ghost of Mars was in like 2000 something.
Oh yeah.
Halloween was a micro-budget movie. We made Marvin watch that one too. If you want to check that out, that's on our channel. Just search up Halloween. My favorite movie of all time, for those of you that don't know. But it was an indie movie that becomes the most profitable movie ever made. And you would think that would make him like a studio darling, but instead studios kind of just chalked him up to be like the horror guy or the low budget guy or a guy that kind of like works outside of the system because of the way he got Halloween done in a very like, what's the word? Kind of just get it done sort of way. Right. And he never really got the respect that other directors got with his breakout. And then The Thing, this movie broke him because the industry rejected it. And now it's considered a masterpiece all these years later. But in 1982, like I said, critics shredded it. Audiences really ignored it. Universal panicked. And then John Carpenter lost future jobs because of it. And he has said many times that the reaction to The Thing like hurt him deeply because it changed how studios treated him. And it's one of the most infamous cases of a great movie being punished for being pretty much ahead of its time. And John Carpenter didn't stop making movies. He kept making great movies, and the studios kept mishandling them. His run from the 1970s to the 80s is absurd. He has Escape from New York, The Fog, Big Trouble in Little China, Starman, They Live. Almost all of those movies were marketed poorly, released at the wrong time, critically misunderstood, financially underperforming. Big Trouble in Little China especially was a disaster for him. Fox didn't know how to sell it, and then John Carpenter kind of like walked away from studio filmmaking for years after that. He's famously blunt about this. Anytime he talks about Hollywood, he says he loves making movies, but he hates Hollywood. He hates the studio system because of its meddling and how it with like the creative process.
So
I
The
guess.
Thing was apparently also overshadowed by E.T. and Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which was also 1982.
The Thing did come out in the same year as E.T. That was the overshadow. Season of the Witch was another one of those movies that like nobody liked.
Yeah, but that was also 1982. So they had like Halloween, which he did well, and then the Halloween Season of the Witch, which was right. So it kind of compounded. But yeah, I mean, there's stories of horror movies that bombed that became cult classics and changed society or the genre. But I don't think there's many that are as well known or profound as what John Carpenter did.
Yeah, I think this is more than that. It's just a horror movie. I think that this is more so because of his history with Hollywood, that he's now finally getting the recognition that he deserves, that his fans always know he deserves, because he was a filmmaker with a clear voice and a strong point of view, and he didn't really have any interest in playing the games of Hollywood, and the industry punished him for that. And now, ironically, it's celebrating him for the very qualities it once rejected. I mean,
he stood on principle,
right.
And he's finally getting his flowers. Although maybe if these had realized how good he was sooner, he might have done some greater things. But his he closed himself off a little bit.
Oh yeah,
I think because
and
of
you
his tumultuous relationship.
yeah, and you could understand why. And now,
Yeah.
only later did like culture catch up to him, as most of his movies have gone on to become cult classics. But he is treated like a legend outside of the industry. The Thing is now obviously in the Library of Congress, but it is considered one of the greatest horror sci-fi movies ever made. Halloween is a cultural a cultural institution. It's one of the greatest
Yep.
horror movies ever made, if not the greatest horror movie ever made. It started a genre, kind of.
Yep.
They Live is a political touchstone, right? There's no political movie really better or on the same level as They Live.
Great.
His synth scores are iconic. Modern directors cite him constantly, but all that respect and adoration came decades after the industry dismissed him. But this is finally his moment in the sun.
I have a poster of him and his sons
that he deserves,
hanging up on my wall in here in this office.
I would love to go see him in concert. And I'll end this on a quote from John Carpenter. He says, and there's a picture of the cast. As you may have heard, The Thing has been added to the Library of Congress. We made the movie to push against the edges of what we could pull off, and it carries that strain in its bones. Seeing it now, treated with the same care and reverence we had making it, means a great deal to me and everyone who brought it to life. I especially want to remember T.K. Carter, who brought heart and humor into that desolate, frozen place, and should be standing here with us today, sharing in this recognition. Thank you to everyone who continues to keep it alive. So,
R.I.P. to him. And what a great message. That's awesome.
Yep. So good for John Carpenter. The GOAT has finally arrived. Although we all know he was the GOAT.
Yeah, well, we recognized him a long time ago. I think we've been giving him praise since I think the first recording.
Oh yeah, I mean he's been one of my favorite filmmakers my whole life, pretty much. Like I said, Halloween, you can see him right there. Michael Myers right behind me always. So, so that's really awesome. And then the last thing, obviously, we should talk about or need to talk about is we had a big loss this week. The industry has had a big loss, and fans of the industry has had a big loss. Catherine O'Hara passed away, and Catherine O'Hara's death is a gut punch for not only the industry but for comedy. So I wanted to talk about her a little bit. She passed away this week at the age of 71, which is pretty young. She's one of those people where the more you talk about her career, I think the more you realize how much of modern comedy has her fingerprints on it. I've been seeing a lot of posts celebrating her from, her role in Home Alone, obviously, Beetlejuice, Schitt's Creek more recently, but that doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of her career. She's really one of the most like singular comedic voices in like the last half century. And she was a performer whose work shaped generations of sketch comedy, film and television. Like she was a giant.
Yep.
Have you ever watched Second City TV? Comedy giants came out of this show, like award-winning actors, directors. She came out of it. Joan Rivers, Alan Alda, Harold Ramis, Bill Murray, John Candy, John Belushi, Dan Aykroyd, Eugene Levy, Chris Farley, Mike Myers, Steve Carell, Tina Fey, like the list, Jason Sudeikis, like the list continues. On SCTV, she built characters that were like really weird and just so specific, and she was always so committed.
I've probably seen skits,
you must have,
but I haven't seen, I don't know, the shows. It's not ringing a bell.
Well, yeah. She was just always so committed to the bit that you could still quote a lot of them like decades later. And that was like the big thing with her. She never really phoned in a performance. A lot of her biggest roles that people don't even know about were Christopher Guest movies, which you might have seen some of them. Those were the like mockumentary movies that he did. Best in Show was the one about the dog show. A Mighty Wind about the folk groups getting back together. Waiting for Guffman. Yeah. And I don't know. She's fantastic, and I don't think like outside of really she just doesn't get the recognition I think she deserves a lot of the time, because maybe people aren't familiar with a lot of these like more niche type of things that she's been in. But I mean, she's a giant. And then obviously all the millennials know her because of Home Alone and whatever. Where, and even that's a
Yeah.
role that like she didn't phone in. That's a throwaway mom role that she could have just sort of like.
She's a movie mom. I mean, she's the same age as my mom would have been. I mean, my mom was born the same year. She passed away a long time ago, so I didn't get to have her. So, I mean, yeah, this is sad for me because Home Alone and yeah, just great role. She's a great actor. She will be missed because she was great in everything she did that I've seen her in. I've never seen her not do good in a role.
Did you watch Schitt's Creek? She's like unbelievable in that.
Yes, yeah, that's the one that got her most of her awards. I think her Golden Globes and her Emmy nominations. I think it was all Schitt's Creek.
I actually think she was nominated for the studio now this year.
Oh yeah, just recently. But she had 2 Primetime Emmy Awards, a Golden Globe Award, and 2 Screen Actors Guild Awards. And I'm pretty sure most of those were for Schitt's Creeks. But 1 or 2 of them might have been for something else. But yeah, that's a great show.
But yeah, you look back at her career, it's not just a list of credits, it's a blueprint on how to be like brilliant, collaborative, and unforgettable. So big loss. Rest in peace. Gone too soon because she was doing great in the studio. Let's move on to the movie that we're talking about this week, and that is Blue Moon.
I love Ethan Hawke, but when I watched the trailer for this movie, Blue Moon, I was like, ooh, I love Ethan Hawke, but I don't know about this one.
You and I are on the same page, Dusty. I'll be honest. I went into Blue Moon with some pretty low expectations. Most of the time, for me anyway, these types of movies feel like a chore to get through. You know that I do not like biopics. I do not like period pieces. But Richard Linklater is a great director. I like all his movies. I love Ethan Hawke. And this one actually managed to pull me in. There's something about this movie that that worked for me, and it's not the reasons that I expected when I went into it. So let's talk about it. Why this movie is one of the most surprising movies of the year for me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Most surprising. All right.
One of the most surprising movies of the year for me. It caught me off guard, and yeah, much better than I initially gave it credit for, I thought. So this is the story, a very specific story. So this is a biopic, as I mentioned, but what we're watching is a not necessarily real event. It's an imagined event about a real life event, essentially. It's a little bit of a fairy tale, and it's about a real life man, Lawrence Hart, who happens to be one of the greatest songwriters of all time, American songwriters of all time, in terms of
jingle writers. I would probably, I guess you could say, yeah, songwriters fair because they were songs, but they were, I don't know.
He was a lyricist for Broadway.
Yes,
for Broadway.
Yeah, lyricist. Yes,
but he has written some of the most famous love songs of all time.
Yes,
that came out of his plays. So this film takes place on the night of the release of Oklahoma, with an exclamation point, which of course is one of the most famous Broadway musicals of all time.
It is, absolutely.
Now, Lawrence Hart had a long time working relationship with his partner, Richard Rodgers.
Musician.
Lawrence Hart struggled his whole life with alcoholism and mental health and depression and stuff like that. And that put a real strain on his working relationship with Richard Rodgers. At this point where we're meeting him in the film on the night of Oklahoma, Richard Rodgers and him have split because of his alcoholism, and he's just hard to work with. Richard Rodgers partnered with another person who would go on to be a legend in Broadway musicals, Oscar Hammerstein. Rodgers and Hammerstein are literally the most famous Broadway producers of all time. So that's where this movie takes place, and the movie takes place months before he would eventually pass away.
Here's a sequence of events before the events of his death.
Now, the movie takes place in one single location, which I really loved. It takes place in a famous restaurant in Manhattan called Sardi's. It is a Broadway staple in the theater district of Manhattan. It's a place that famously has caricatures on the walls of all Broadway celebrities over the years. And it's a place where Broadway people hung out before and after shows. It's where they had parties, opening night parties and stuff like that. And again, this is the opening night of Oklahoma, which is the new successful show. It's the new big hit from his former partner. So he's feeling a little bit left out, left in the cold, so to speak, pun intended. And it's essentially a look at a fading career, I guess, but it's a little bit more than that, and we'll talk about it later. But initially, Dusty, so you went into this not really thinking you'd like it. What did you think overall? Did you like it or no?
There's a lot of things that I can appreciate about this film.
Okay.
But in the end, no. My initial gut reaction of I don't think this is a film for me.
Okay.
Stood because admittedly fell asleep last night like the last 10, 15 minutes, so didn't even get to the end of the movie. Christina told me about it because I watched it with her.
Oh, so maybe that's why you don't know about the thing.
Yeah, that's why I said I don't know, because I passed out like the last 15, 20 minutes maybe. I fell asleep.
Fair enough.
I can appreciate the fact that this movie feels like a play when it takes place in the time when playwrights and plays are a big thing. I like that about this. I knew this was going to be Ethan Hawke monologuing a little bit pretentiously throughout the whole movie based on the trailer.
Yeah.
And that did not disappoint. It was that. But it just, I don't know. I found wit and humor in some of the comebacks from the short little dialogue that he had with some of the people, the bartender, the author who stole the Stuart Little idea. There's lots of things weaved into this that are amazing.
Which aren't real, by the way, but they were cool little Easter eggs.
Sure. But like it just felt like Ethan Hawke being a pretentious bloviator of no, listen to me, listen to my story. Are you I gotta tell you the story. Like he said those things so many times that I was just like, yeah, brother, shut the fuck up. Like, but there's some things there's much more depth. I didn't like this movie, but it told a story that was real and raw and fascinating in the same manner. I guess I don't know if that makes sense.
It's funny you use the word bloviating because literally in my notes here I have this is just a movie about a guy bloviating about God knows what.
It is though.
No, it is. But you also well, hang on,
Christina, go ahead.
You touched on something great, where you said that you just wanted him to shut the fuck up. That's the point of the whole movie. But go on.
Sure. And Christina touched on this point while we were watching. Well, today we talked about it a little bit. She was like, well, last night when we were watching it, she mentioned this. She's like, I had a friend who was...
Everybody knows this person.
This is Norm Macdonald, okay? The Norm Macdonald bit. This man is deeply closeted gay man.
That was the rumor.
That was the rumor. Christina said she had a friend that was similar to him in personality, that obsessed about a woman, but didn't actually want the woman, was really living vicariously through the woman and those dreams. And maybe he's just a lonely man and he can live vicariously through men and women, but he seemed to come off a little bit as not even interested in the woman, but interested in telling the story to other men about the woman because they're interested. Like he just needs to be important, but he was so self-important that he was telling stories about like he told a story about the end of like when he was dropping the cards and he's picking the cards up and he's like, oh, she's gonna ask me about what I want. I want to. Well, if you'd shut the up and stop bloviating, maybe people would be interested and ask you. But
Do
like
you
there's some brilliance in all this, but still, it was grating to me. Like I couldn't
do
get
you
through it.
do you remember the point you fell asleep?
Not exactly. She told me about him picking up the cards. I remember the important parts. So they went into the closet and she told him, I love you, but not like that, which is an important point because he'd been told that before by another woman. And he had the conversation with his best friend on the stairwell about how, well, like, we're not doing this. I can't do this. I don't want to argue with you. So it was closer to the end, but I don't remember exactly where.
Okay. So you saw the important parts, but the movie opens with two really important quotes about him. One is he was alert and dynamic and fun to be around, and that's from Oscar Hammerstein. And the other was he was
not fun to be around from what I saw on screen.
And the other was he was the saddest man I ever knew, and that was from Mabel Mercer.
Yes.
These are real life quotes, and that paints the picture of this man. Now, totally understand what you're saying. But again, this is a picture of a man who existed. So you would imagine that based on historical context or whatever, that this is a pretty accurate portrayal of the guy.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that you touched on is kind of just shut the fuck up is the point of the movie, or really the point of why you would make a movie about a person like this, because he was a deeply, deeply insecure person. Yeah. I looked into it. There were rumors about him being gay, whether he's not. The movie does play off of that a little bit, that like these rumors have circulated. But you never get the sense that he is trying to convince other people that he's straight. It is more what you said, where he is kind of just wanting to tell
living
stories.
Vicariously.
That too, because at the point where he's asking her about like her sexcapades with this guy, he was like infatuated by it, but it wasn't because he was like trying to get more information about her. It was just about like
that's the fuel to his his fire that lets him write the words that he writes, that makes him like you're seeing his process of I have to experience this youngness and this newness and this beauty so that I can elaborate on it in paper and words, and it's beautiful. And yes, it is, but God damn, it's grating too. Your process is terrible.
I think that this is like a beautiful look at a guy who was a genius, a man who was deeply, deeply troubled and that he was depressed and sad.
Yep, and lonely.
But the tragic irony that this movie, I think, brilliantly shows you is that he was revered already.
Yes, he was.
By all
and
the
he was
people,
also used because he gets like the guy, the author that did this. Like anytime anybody got something from him, they kind of like went away.
I don't think that was purposeful.
There was.
But I see what you're saying, because he got like
the author disappeared when he got a Stuart Little idea. The girl just wanted the Richard Rogers introduction, and so did the piano player. Like there were people that were using him, and when you get to that sort of celebrity status, it's understandable. Like you don't know who your friends are or who is just leeching off of you or using you. Like that is a big point.
That's what I was getting at, because you get the sense he tells these stories and stuff because he just wants people to listen to him, because he wants to come off as interesting and he wants to be admired for his grand stories and these things that he's experienced, whether they're true or not. And a lot of the movie is about him grappling with the fact that he's sort of like yesterday's news, so to speak, in terms of Broadway production. You still there, or are you frozen?
I'm still here.
Oh, okay. You were really still for that. Was that was like some Drac shit. I don't even think you were breathing. You know, he plays that really well, of like, all right, my career's kind of behind me. This is the new game in town, Rodgers and Hammerstein. But on the opposite side of that, you're right. there are people that kind of like use him a little bit, but he's constantly looking for recognition and admiration, and he has
Sure.
it the whole time.
He
Hey,
says it over and over and over. That was frustrating.
Right.
Like, you need to hear this story. Are you even listening to me? I got to tell you this thing.
Yeah, he has it the whole time, though. You might have missed it because you fell asleep, but at the end of the movie, he's about to walk out of the bar and go to the party that they're having, like the after party.
Oh, yeah, no, I would. That's probably where I fell asleep. Yeah, I missed that.
He's about to leave, and he says to the piano player, it actually made me a little bit get choked up. He says to the piano player, he's like, "Hey, play me another one or whatever." And the piano player starts playing Blue Moon, which is his song. And and the coat lady joins in singing. I'm getting choked up talking about it. The waitress chimes in singing, and so does the bartender.
So they give him his flowers. The people he knows every day that he sees every day give him his flowers as he's leaving.
And that's the thing, is like, he was admired. People did love him.
Yeah, sure, okay.
And his partner, like, that's the thing too. Like Richard Rodgers loved him and admired him.
Yeah,
and was like,
respected.
I want to.
Yeah, you're one of my best, oldest friends. He tells him, he's like, I will never. I'll give you any time you want.
You're one of my best and oldest friends, and you literally started my career. Like, you're a genius, and I admire. Like, I want to work with you again, but I need these.
You were the mentor, but I have succeeded you, and I need you to still be my friend, and I love you, but I can't work with you, brother. Like,
he wants to work with him, but he's like, I need you to be. I need you. I could work with you again, but under these specific.
Got to do it right.
Right.
Yep. Got to do it right.
Where in the beginning of the movie, when he's building you up to this entrance of Richard Rodgers, you think there's like this rift there that's like
the animosity.
There's animosity, but then you realize that there's no animosity. The same thing with Oscar.
It's just a little frustration because, like I said, I'm frustrated with this film and the whole movie, and most people are. So I get it. Yeah.
There's also admiration from another person who you would think there's going to be like this vendetta with, not a vendetta, but more of like a competitive sort of attitude with Oscar Hammerstein, because he stole his partner and he's now the new guy in town. But no, Oscar Hammerstein,
he showed up and couldn't do anything but praise him.
Exactly. And so that's really the really like depressing irony of this movie, is that this is a guy who's like deeply sad, can't love himself, but everybody does love him on some level. Even the girl who seems like she's using him, I don't know if she was really using him. It almost just seemed like, I think we were like
Margot's character.
Not Margot.
Margot Qualley's character. Oh,
Margaret Qualley. Yeah, I thought you meant
Margot. Yeah, Margot. I'm sorry. Margot.
No, easy confusion.
Qualley.
She was also great, by the way, but we'll get to that in a second. But I don't know if she was using him more so as that the movie is. So Richard Linklater is really great at making.
It was just dismissiveness from.
I don't even think it was that, like, because Richard Linklater is great at these like hangout movies where you're just kind of watching people talk and just sit around. This one sort of invites you in. It's almost like you're sitting at the bar with him. And you're like, that's why I feel like you felt that grating nature of it, because the movie does a really great job of making it feel like you're sitting there listening to him talk.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, it's because the first half hour is him building up this lady.
Yeah.
And they're like, did you bang her? Did you didn't bang her? And he's like, I gotta tell you about the story. She's my love. She's my wife. I'm gonna marry her. And then you're like, okay, she is an up and comer, and she's got you around because you're a connection with power and potential for connections and resources. But you're like on Neptune if you think that like there's any real shot of you getting with this girl, and it's sad.
I don't think he actually thought that that was the case. I think that was just kind of one of his stories. Like, I don't think that I think on some level, I don't think he thought that he, had like a real like chance with her in terms of like romantically.
No, I don't think so either, because he had already been told it and he knew what the answer was coming, because he knows who he is, who, again, shout out Norm Macdonald, a deeply closeted gay man, which is inferred. But that's not to say that's what he was. And I'm not trying to make a joke about it, but he just comes off as that way, as like, I don't care about you, girl. Mm-hmm. I care about your experience, fantasies and your experiences. Yeah. And that's what my...
even if he wasn't gay, I still think that stands because he, like, he also just didn't love himself enough to be in a successful relationship. You have to love yourself too.
You have to be comfortable with yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah. That anybody, yes, absolutely. You have to be
Right.
comfortable in your own skin to be comfortable enough around another person to keep them in check and have a lovable partnership with them. Absolutely.
But so technically wise, I thought this movie was like pretty brilliant. Like, I love the fact that like it does make you feel like you're sitting there with these characters. I love the piano just playing in the background the whole time.
That was awesome. Yeah, it was good. Yes, the ambiance. And then the bartender, he's a
Oh
great
my
actor.
God.
I forget his
Bobby
fucking name.
Cannavale.
Yeah, but brilliant. Perfect cast for the bartender in this.
The cast was amazing. Ethan Hawke.
And even the author, I forget his name, but
Andrew
well
Scott.
done. Yeah, well done on it. Like,
Yeah.
I thought it was well acted. I don't know that I would say that it was well written, because and maybe this film is supposed to frustrate me. This is one of those films that I think is good and has some brilliance to it, but I didn't like it because it's just overall, it's a sad movie. It's a sad story, and I just didn't like what I was watching.
I could see that.
Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. I think it was really well written, and I think it was brilliantly written, to be honest, because it felt very real. A lot of times you watch movies and sometimes dialogue has a tendency to not feel real. This felt very real, and he felt very real in his portrayal of this guy that I don't even know anything about. I didn't know anything about this guy till I watched this movie and read about him after the fact for the podcast. But I believe this. Ethan Hawke completely transforms himself into whatever I guess they know about this guy or what they believed this guy to be. And I'm not watching Ethan Hawke anymore. Like, I'm literally watching this guy. But part of that is because of not just the acting. Part of it is the dialogue. Like, he's talking about some crazy shit that if you could actually like pay attention to what he's saying, it's very smartly written. Like, to do that,
I had problems with that. Christina said the same thing you just said. She said, I forgot it was Ethan Hawke. And I said the exact opposite. I said, I don't know, maybe it was the quality of the film that I watched, which was only like 5 gig.
No.
But like you could tell he was wearing the bald cap.
He wasn't actually. He shaved his head.
No, okay. So I don't know. It was just off-putting, like the triangle thing that he had with the comb over.
A lot of people
I was like, I'm watching Ethan Hawke give a 5-minute monologue that is infuriatingly annoying, and he's still talking.
A lot of people I've seen have said similar, like people who haven't been as favorable on the movie have said the same thing. Like they didn't, like, obviously they filmed it, they used certain camera techniques to make him look shorter because the real guy was 5 feet tall.
That wasn't as off-putting. Like,
they put him in bigger,
except for when he was standing next to the piano, and I'm like, okay, like, what is he standing in the stage?
They put him in oversized clothing. So I could understand some of that stuff, but I thought the writing was brilliant because, like, if you actually kind of like lock in and listen to him, you kind of get lost in what he's saying. And that's the thing too is about everybody.
Well, and
hang on, everybody knows this guy. And I don't mean like Lauren's Heart. People know this archetype of person who has a story about everything, kind of has an experience about everything, knows everything, and they just go on and on and on. And you know that they're just talking because they want somebody to listen to them. And you mentioned Bobby Cannavale. He played the bartender, Eddie. He was my favorite character in the whole fucking movie because he's this guy's like true friend. He cares about him. He's trying to cut him off from drinking because he knows he has a drinking problem. And he's there to listen, even though he's annoyed. He looks at his watch. He's like, I'm at work, man. Like, I can't just sit around listening to you. But he does it anyway because that's his friend. And like, I don't know. I think by the end of it, when you realize like, oh man, this guy really is loved by pretty much everybody who's come into his orbit. It's just that he can't love himself. It's like really actually like heartbreaking. What were you going to say?
I was going to just to point on you said about the dialogue was brilliant. I thought The dialogue was brilliant in that everybody that interacted with him had brilliant dialogue, and their replies and retorts to him seemed reasonable. But some of the things he was saying is the dialogue where it lost me sometimes. It's like, this guy,
Well,
like, I
that's
get it. You're a brilliant lyricist and you're award winning and you're pretentious and you're mad about your friend's success,
right.
and you just want to like create this essence of, I'm not mad but I'm mad and I'm going to go on about it and everybody's going to have to deal with it for this night. Like, it's just an annoying watch, I guess, is all I can say. Like, there's some brilliance in there, I can respect that and understand it, but god damn, it was a grind and I fell asleep at the end.
I think
So
that's the point. I think it made you feel how you were supposed to feel.
I guess so.
But you
yeah.
fell asleep, so you didn't get the
I didn't get the final
punchline.
finale. Yeah,
no. But the acting was great. I can't say enough good things about it. Ethan Hawke was great as Lawrence Hart. Bobby Cannavale was great as bartender. Margaret Qualley was great as Elizabeth Wheeland. She wasn't in it too much, but for the time that she was in it, she played a great role.
Yeah, all that buildup for like little payoff. He
This
talked about her so much.
this story is actually inspired by the real Elizabeth Wheeland that we don't really know too much about historically. Apparently, the writer of this movie, Robert Kaplow, had come across some preserved letters from Elizabeth to Lawrence, and so a lot of this is based on that.
Fascinating.
Andrew Scott played Richard Rogers. He was great for when he was in it. Yeah, great cast. Just top down, I think all the performances were excellent. But yeah, I think ultimately the real tragedy of this movie is that, you know, and it's something that you see often too, like, you know, with a lot of people, namely celebrities, because they have a platform to have this effect on people, but it always feels like that people who bring so much joy to the world, whether it be laughter like Robin Williams or, you know, love like this guy, he wrote some of the best love songs.
Frustration from fucking Ethan Hawke.
It always seems like that people who bring so much joy to others can't find that same joy within themselves. Like they can't give it to themselves. And that is like pretty heartbreaking. And I don't know, I think the movie just did a really great job of like just giving you this little glimpse of this man that you may or may not know about. And I didn't know about him. And I read a lot about it afterwards. I mean, like, you know, you hear the names Oscar, Rodgers and Hammerstein. I'm not a Broadway guy. I'm not a musical guy. I'm sure if you're into Broadway musicals or just
that's why the critics
stage acting
love
in
this.
general, you would love this movie like a lot because it's, you know, it's about that history. But
critics scored it higher than the audience, and I think this history is probably why.
That's possible, but I do think it is worthy of the praise that it's getting. I could easily see him winning Best Actor for this. I think his performance was, I don't want to use the pretentious critic word of transformative, but that's really the best way to describe it, because I really didn't feel like I was watching Ethan Hawke after a certain point. I do recognize that this movie's probably not for everybody. It is because it's just people talking. But the same token, you can say the same thing about Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer is just people talking for 3 hours.
Yeah, sure. You could say that about a lot of movies where it's just dialogue. And there's been some great movies that have done it. But when you're, again, like this movie is supposed to be grating, I guess, and so
I think
like
so,
if you can get through that and appreciate some of the brilliance in it, you will like this movie. Like, I did not like this movie going into it. I did not enjoy watching it, but after sitting down and ruminating on it for a little bit and talking with Christina about it and talking with Dan about it, I can respect it a little bit more because I kind of understand more of the brilliance and the genius behind it, but still did not enjoy watching it, but would recommend watching it. Like, does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't think this movie would be enjoyable for a lot of people. 100%. So now just to clarify on the real life events, like I said, are a little foggy, but Um, you know, the night that this movie takes place, he does appear in real life. I'm saying he does go to the premiere of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Oklahoma with an exclamation point. He does put in a brief appearance at the party at Sardi's where this movie takes place, and he tells Rodgers, "This is one of the greatest shows I've ever seen, and it'll be playing 20 years from now." And he was right. And so
he was
according
still playing.
According to history, he left with his mother immediately afterwards, saying she was tired. He was very close with his mother. He lived with her. And in 1943, she passed away, and he was like devastated by the loss and didn't really recover emotionally, according to history.
It's rough.
He did actually reunite with Rodgers to do what they were talking about in the film,
which Connecticut Cowboy or whatever,
which is to rewrite some of that play. They reunited for Connecticut Yankee was the name of the play.
Yankee, that was it. Yes,
which was their musical from 1927. So Hart composed new lyrics for many of the songs in anticipation of the revival's November 17th, 1943 premiere. At the theater on opening night, Hart showed up drunk in the audience. His condition was noticed by his sister-in-law. She persuaded him to accompany her to her Manhattan home. Sometime after they arrived, Hart left, venturing into cold weather to resume drinking. A friend of Hart's found him sitting on the curb in front of a bar that he favored on Manhattan's 8th Avenue, which is where the movie opens. Hart was shivering, and his friend accompanied him to the hospital, where he was determined that Hart had pneumonia from exposure, and he died on November 22nd, 1943, about 4 days after he was admitted to the hospital. So, yeah, it's a pretty sad story. And
so what day was opening night then?
Opening night was November 17th, and he died November 22nd.
Okay.
No. I'm sorry. Oklahoma opened not in November. Oklahoma opened months prior.
Yeah. So he went to the opening.
He went to the opening. Months passed.
Life deteriorated.
Yes.
And he was found drunk in
Correct.
front of the bar that the scene took place in. Okay. Yeah.
So March 31st, Oklahoma premiered.
That was the premiere he went to that took place in
Correct.
this movie. That was March.
It opens in black and white because it's showing you the future.
Yeah.
So on
Which
March,
we're watching is November or December when
we're watching March. And throughout the course of the movie, you're talking about the opening. Yes, the opening is November.
The opening is November or December.
Correct.
When he's found and taken to the hospital and dies of pneumonia. But the whole rest of the movie takes place in March at the premiere.
Correct. There's a 5-month gap there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he dies 5 months after what we've watched.
I think does it say 5 months? I don't know. It said 5 or 3 at the beginning.
I forget exactly what it says, but
it's a couple months.
But yeah, I thought ultimately this was a great movie. I liked it. It surprised. I think it's one of the most for me. It's one of the most surprising movies of the year because I went into it thinking I was going to be bored, thinking I wasn't going to like it because I don't typically like movies like this. And I was really surprised that it did actually captivate me. And I actually found it pretty tense too throughout. Like I was kind of like the way they film it and the dialogue and the speed at which he's talking, and you kind of see the frustration on the people that are listening to him, and like you feel the frustration too. It's got a little tension to it, and like I don't know, it gripped me. I was pretty
well, and it's cut with some great witty replies. Like that's one thing that I really thoroughly enjoyed. There were a couple things where he's just going on and on and on, and then he says something, and somebody. And it's a little bit forgettable who said what because there's so few lines that anybody else gets in this movie. But somebody says something to him, and it's so witty and just genius.
Yeah.
Like the bartender says a couple of things.
Right.
So, but yeah, I don't know.
All right. Well, I was pretty locked in by it. It has a 6.9 on IMDb. It's getting a lot of critical buzz. It's getting a lot of award season buzz. It had a lot of film festival buzz. So yeah, he's nominated for best actor.
Not just the two, best actor and best supporting actress, right?
I think so. So 6.9 on IMDb. I would bump this up. I would give this is like an 8.5 for me.
See, I wanted to give this 6 or 6.5 after watching it last night, but after sitting on it and ruminating, and like I said, talking to Christine and you, I will begrudgingly give it a 7.
Okay, begrudgingly.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would, like I said, I would recommend somebody watch this, but I would not be surprised if they're frustrated by it or annoyed by it, because you're kind of supposed to be. So
you could not like a movie, but also recognize its merits. You know?
Sure. And that's where I'm at with this one.
Yeah, and that's totally fair. So there you have it. So hey, Christina liked it?
Yeah, she did. She thought it was great. Yes.
Good. Yeah, folks, there's our thoughts on Blue Moon. Have you watched it? Let us know. Leave a comment down below. Tell us what you thought about it. It was very surprising for me. I went into it thinking I wasn't going to like it, and I did. Dusty went into it thinking he wasn't going to like it, and he was correct. So let us know what you thought about it. If you enjoyed the conversation today, leave a like on the video. It helps us out, helps push the video out to other people. My dog won't shut the fuck up. Apologies.
Yeah. We're at 888 subscribers, so if you want to get in before we hit our first 1,000, now is the time. Thank you to all of you that did subscribe.
Yeah, be an early adopter. Hit that sub button.
Yeah.
We actually do this once a week, folks. We have new podcast episodes. They usually come out every Tuesday. We post our schedule in advance for the whole month, so people can watch along with us and know what we're talking about. If you want to be in the know, join our Discord. There will be links down below to all that good stuff. But
Marty Supreme next week, I think, right?
Yeah, next week is Marty Supreme. But yeah, folks, that'll do it for us. We'll catch you next week. We appreciate you hanging out with us.
Asta.